Go. Hey, everybody. It's Harlan here, and I want to welcome you all. I have a very, very special guest tonight. In fact, she is one of the foremost chefs in the world of keto, has taught tens of thousands of people about keto and cooking. And she's here today. We want to focus tonight on keto and cooking. And she's got lots and lots of cookbooks and ideas. So everybody, please welcome Carrie Brown, who is the head of the Keto Evangelists kitchen. So I'm going to type her name up on the screen. And please welcome Carrie. Say hi to her.
Hi, everybody.
So,
hi, Harlan. Thank you for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. I have a lot of questions for you, and then I suppose that we're going to have questions from folks in the audience. Ever since Facebook's security scandal and they were sharing everybody's information, we don't get to see people's names when they ask questions. It just says comment from Facebook. So if we do have some questions, I will be sure to share them. I'm seeing some high carries coming into you. Tell me about Keto Evangelist Kitchen and Keto Evangelist. How long have you been doing this?
So I've been doing a food blog and cookbooks for a while, but it was 2 years ago that Brian Williamson from Keto Evangelist pinged me, emailed me, and said, could he interview me for his podcast? And I said yes, because I say yes to just about everything. And that went, so that was broadcast almost exactly 2 years ago. We talked all about ice cream, keto ice cream. And the response to that podcast was enormous and wonderful. So Brian reached out to me another couple of weeks later and said, was I interested in talking to him about ways that we could collaborate and other projects that we could work on? And I said yes, because I say yes to almost everything. And so we decided to start a second podcast, which was just about the food. So we don't typically have guests. We don't talk about the science or the whys and the wherefores or the health aspects. We actually talk about the food. So we had we have a podcast on cows, and we have a podcast on pork, and we had a podcast on tarragon, and so our podcast is all around the practical application of the science and the theory in the kitchen, i.e. what do you, okay, I understand keto and I know I should be doing it and I know why, but what in the world do I do in the kitchen? So that is the Keto Evangelist Kitchen podcast. We also at the same time started the Keto Evangelist Kitchen Facebook group, and also the Keto Evangelist Kitchen blog, which is where I post recipes. And then right now I have 5 cookbooks and also a keto Kickstarter book as well. So we got 6 books out in publication right now.
So my question for you is, how long have you been doing keto? And what are some of the big learnings that you've had along the way in keto and in cooking keto?
So I have actually been fully keto for 3 years. I was put on keto by a doctor in Seattle who I think many of you may have heard of him, Dr. Ted Naiman. And I was put on the ketogenic diet for my brain because I had been, 2 years earlier, I had been diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. And my psychiatrists and then doctors had been completely unable to keep me stable. And so I pretty much had a bit of a nightmare for 2 years, spent a lot of it being suicidal. And so then I decided I was gonna be my own detective. And I started trying to figure out why I had bipolar. And that, as part of that, I bumped into Dr. Naiman on Twitter, actually, and he said he thought he could help me. And so I went to see him, and he put me on the ketogenic diet because he said the ketogenic diet was originally developed to help children with seizures. They've had a lot of success with children who have seizures either being dramatically reduced or completely put in remission. Now, the reason Ted thought it might help me is because the medication I was on at the time for my bipolar 2 was lamotrigine, which is actually an anti-seizure medication. So he figured that if keto was great for children with seizures and I was on an anti-seizure medication, maybe that would help me too. So I actually went on the full hardcore therapeutic or medical keto 3 years ago, but I had been low carb or very low carb for, let me see, about 3 years before that. So low carb at least 6 years, keto fully for the last 3.
Was it a big shift for you to go from low carb to keto?
No, but I think that was partly because I was very ill. And so at that point, I was prepared to do anything. I was prepared to do anything that anybody told me to do if I thought that it would help. So and actually at the same time as I started working with Dr. Naiman from a keto aspect, I also had a battery of food sensitivity tests done and discovered that I had sensitivities or allergies to an astonishing number of things. So when we took out all the things that I was sensitive to and we layered the keto on top of that, I was actually left with 9 things that I could eat. And I ate those 9 things in rotation for 3 months and nothing else. So, and that maybe should indicate to you my level of desperation with how ill I was and how much I needed to find something that worked. So I was super hardcore keto for 3 months. I guess to answer your question, in some ways, going hardcore keto was hard for me. Not super hard, but a bit hard because I do love vegetables. I love lettuce. You probably haven't had many people say that. I do love lettuce. I love greens.
We had a rabbit on last week who said the same thing.
Yay! Lettuce lovers unite. So I do love lettuce and greens and in fact all vegetables. So it was when I was doing the food elimination and the hardcore keto, I definitely missed eating vegetables. Now I have completely resolved my bipolar. I have been completely off my bipolar medications it'll be 3 years in October. And I've had 0 symptoms of bipolar in that same period. So now I don't eat super hardcore keto. I do eat some veggies, some obviously green veggies, low carb veggies. I eat the leafy greens and cucumber, celery, avocados, a fruit, things like that. I don't eat a ton, but I do eat them because I really enjoy them. And I actually feel better physically when I do have some level of non-starchy veggies in my diet. So, but obviously I stay down the lower end. I stay down the low carb end of that spectrum. And as I say, going back to adding a few veggies in did not adversely affect my brain after we'd got me stable. So was it hard? No, because I was desperate. But did I miss veggies? Yes. And as I say, I've successfully put some back in now. And I'm not finding that there was any detriment to that.
Tell us what you do in Keto Evangelist Kitchen.
So I develop recipes for keto people. And I say we, that's Brian and I. Brian actually doesn't do any of the cooking. But our ethos is that we're down the stricter end of things. We don't use a lot of what might be considered the gray ingredients. We think that as well as keto, i.e. absence of carbs, we don't believe in if it fits your macros. So if you've had no carbs and half a Snickers bar fits in your 20 grams a day, we still wouldn't advocate eating it. So we're very much focused on the quality of the food, and we do tend to be a bit more strict about things that we will have on our keto list.
Now, I have to tell you that the groups that I'm associated with, completely keto for beginners, keto recipe for beginners, are on the stricter end of the spectrum. And we get a heck of a lot of hate comments, groups opposed to us. They founded groups that are eat whatever the hell you want because Harlan isn't here. Groups. What is it in keto that gets people so hostile and angry? What amazes me is people come to learn keto and they'll ask about a low-carb bread with wheat, and you tell them it has wheat or oat flour in it. It's not keto because it contains a grain. And they start attacking your personal background, your ancestry. They question whether your parents were ever married. I mean, what is this about keto?
Honestly, I don't know. We kind of joke a bit in the group. Just, if we get an angry person, we're all like, eat more fat. Because, eating a large amount of fat is what actually helped to heal my bipolar, my craziness. So, but that's a bit of just a joke, to ease the tension when we're dealing with this. We have, so Brian Williamson, we make no apologies for the fact that we're strict. We believe that food quality is super important, as well as the absence of carbs. So, and if people want to focus solely on the absence of carbs, but keep eating crap foods and think it's okay because it's less than 20 carbs, that's great. That's fine. If that's what they want to do, that's good. But if they come into our groups and suggest that is the philosophy that everybody should live by, or they advocate that, or they try to derail our mission, then we show them where the door is, and we invite them to find another group where they'll feel more at home.
Now, folks out there, I'm going to show you what really made me turn to Carrie. I'm holding it in my hand. It's this, the keto ice cream scoop. Now, when I was growing up, I liked ice cream so much that my mother said that my middle name was Ice Cream. And let me tell you, before I went on keto or low carb, Haagen-Dazs and I were on a first name basis. We were like best buddies. We would have a date several times a week, me and the Haagen-Dazs and the TV. The weight didn't just climb on. I had to earn it, okay? So
you worked hard for that weight.
I worked hard for that. And then when I discovered keto and found out that things like heavy cream and fats were okay, in moderation, and that you could have real ice cream on keto. I ran out and I got an ice cream maker, and since then I've never felt deprived. And I was making up recipes. I'm blessed that my son is really into ice cream. And of course, on a good day, he will make his poor father keto ice cream. He doesn't like to, but usually he will make ice cream with sugar, and then I try and duplicate it. He introduced me to root beer ice cream. He's really good at the ice cream that he does. Unfortunately, the little stinker made peach ice cream last week, so I can't join him in the peaches. But I'm going through this book, and I'm seeing incredible recipes that just blew me away, and they look so simple to make too. Butter me up pecan ice cream, kept in the dark chocolate ice cream, pistachio rose ice cream. So I make pistachio ice cream, but I never thought to convert it with rose water. Butterscotch bling ice cream. These are like orange creamsicle. Incidentally, it's not used with orange. She uses only the rinds. Where did you come up with all of these flavors?
So I am, for anyone who doesn't know my history, I am a pastry chef by trade. So I've always had a passion for food, and particularly pastries, which is kind of ironic now because I totally do not focus on creating keto pastries. I think that pastries should be a treat. I don't think we should live on fathead dough and recreated garbage. I'll create some, but that's not my focus. Most people need a treat, but more than that, they need meals that they can eat every day. Really, really, really healthy, really, really simple, easy, quick, delicious meals to eat on an ongoing basis. Having said that, before I went keto, I was the ice cream queen. So I have always had this just joy of the challenge of ice cream. Ice cream is one of the most complicated, probably the most complicated food stuff that humans have ever invented. And if that's confusing, what I mean is the science of ice cream, the fat and the sugar and the water, and getting that scoopable consistency from the freezer,
so that it's not rock hard,
right, is pure science. And so I already had made thousands and thousands of gallons of regular ice cream before I went keto, and ice cream's always been my secret little passion. So, and I also realized that in America particularly, because you can probably tell I'm not from here, but in America particularly, ice cream is just like, it seems to be the number one thing that people really miss on keto. So the way I came up with those flavors, so I knew I had to figure out how to make the science work without the sugar, which is hard. But anyway, the way I came up with the flavors, I always do a poll on Facebook when I'm starting a new cookbook, and I'll ask people what they miss most or what they want most. And so about half the book will be fan favorites that they've asked for. They say, I really need the butter pecan ice cream, which I don't understand at all because I'm British and we don't have butter pecan. So, so half the book was things that people had requested as being their favorites from their pre-keto days. And then the other half are things that I made up because I'm a pastry chef, and that's how my brain works, developing new flavors, figuring out new things, working out what goes with what to make a really great flavor combination, taste and texture, all that. That's just kind of my passion. And so, yeah, half of them were just things that I made up.
Okay, so I mentioned this to you in comment, and that was xylitol as the sweetener of choice. Can you tell us a little bit about that? When I got started, to me, xylitol was the easiest sugar substitute. It was a one-for-one substitute for me.
It's not, xylitol isn't only the easiest sub in terms of one-for-one, but it is also the least problematic of all of the alternative sweeteners.
What do you mean by the least problematic?
So one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is that they think that all the alternative sugars can just be subbed out one for another. So if a recipe says erythritol or swerve and you don't have that, or that doesn't work for you, or you don't like it, you can just sub that out with an equivalent of any other sweetener.
Now, this is, folks who are listening, this is gold here. You know, when I make a recipe and I include 2 different kinds of Lakanto, it's not because I want to enrich them. It's because it's contributing a certain flavor that I want.
And
Carrie.
It's not just flavor. All of the sugar substitutes do behave differently, especially when they're heated. And so...
Can you say a little more about that? This is great stuff.
So when you see all these conversion charts that say, you know, if it says sugar, you can use, you know, X amount of Lakanto or X amount of swerve or X, and there's all these conversion charts. What they fail to teach you or point out is that all of those are going to give you a different result, not just in, well, presumably the conversion charts are just to give you an equal sweetness. But sugar has a much bigger role in particularly baked goods than just sweetness. They also, it provides a chemical reaction with the other ingredients, and all of the sugar substitutes behave differently in that way, and particularly if you heat them. Anyone who's done a lot of stuff with erythritol knows that it crystallizes. Once you've heated it, if the recipe isn't formulated properly, it simply crystallizes, and it makes a really big difference to the texture. So, and then that's the thing that most of the food bloggers don't understand, and so they just assume that you can just switch out sugars based on sweetness and it'll still work. And this is why so many of you have fails, because you've been led to believe that you can just substitute this for that, when actually from a scientific standpoint, you can't. Well, you can, but you won't have a success. And one of my guiding principles in developing recipes for keto is that I want people to be successful. I want you all to be rock stars in the kitchen. I want to stop you having fails, because fails take time. They take money on ingredients that are typically more expensive than traditional ingredients, and they make you feel like it's you, like you can't cook. So I'm not just here to provide recipes. I'm here to provide recipes that work, that will make you successful in the kitchen, that will stop you wasting time and money. My overarching mission here is to make sure that the food you're eating on keto is more delicious than any of the food you ate when you were on the standard American diet, or whatever diet you were on prior to coming to keto. So for me, it's not just about churning out a recipe. It's about providing you a recipe that is simple to execute. So I've done a ton of recipes that I can do, but I don't want to put out recipes that you need to be a cordon bleu chef to in order to replicate. My recipes have to be replicatable by anybody, otherwise I won't publish them. And they also have to be as simple as I can make them, and they also have to be delicious. And I also try and keep the budget in mind. So I try not to use too many weird ingredients. If I can, I try to reduce that. So sugars is one of the biggest problems. And also the nut flours are two of the biggest problems in keto baking, because you can't just switch them out and expect a great result.
That is one of the things that people do, is that they do recipes that they take non-keto recipes and think that they can just remove flour and substitute either almond or coconut flour and it's going to work. And I don't think there's even a hard and fast rule to make that work, because then you have a certain amount of bulk of dry ingredients to wet ingredients. And, coconut absorbs more than almond, but I don't think that there's a flat rule that if you put in 0.6 of almond flour, the recipe is going to work. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree with you. And that's one of my biggest frustrations with some of the food bloggers out there. And they don't understand the science. You can't just, and so people come in our Facebook group and they say, and they'll post a recipe of cabbage or something they used to love, and they'll say, can I just switch the flour out for almond flour? And our response is always, well, you can, but you're going to be sad. You're not going to get the result you want. It's much, much better to find a recipe developer who knows what they're doing, who has already created a tried and tested version of whatever it is you're trying to make, rather than you trying to convert a traditional recipe into a keto one. Let me do the work for you, rather than trying to create a favorite. Because I have a lot less fails because I have experience in it. And so I kind of typically have a good starting place just because I've worked with it a lot and I have a lot of experience. So my advice would always be with baked goods that you find a blogger who knows what they're doing and find their already keto-fied version of that recipe, rather than trying to convert them yourself, unless you want a lot of disappointments and unless you want, you get joy in wasting time and money on ingredients. And if you just love experiment and you have the budget to do, then that's awesome. That's fabulous. But if you're not one of those people, then go find yourself someone who's already developed the recipe that works.
Now, aside, of course, from my recipes, who are some of the people that you like to follow? And I'm joking there. Who are some of the people that you like to follow and you respect that they really put in their time on the recipes and that they work?
Oh.
Or is that not politically correct to say this? because me and politically correct don't even go in the same room.
So I'm stuttering because honestly, I do not actively follow anybody, because mostly because I don't have time. My life is incredibly busy and filled. And so I decided that getting sucked into social media more than helping my own followers or helping to run the kitchen group or answering questions that come directly to me, that wasn't a rabbit hole I wanted to fall down. Plus, I have the advantage of being professionally trained. So I don't necessarily have maybe the same need to look at other recipes or to get ideas. I'm innately very creative because of my profession, if that made sense. I think the person who is closest to us in terms of hardcore that I'm aware of, because I don't go out searching on social media for other recipe develops. So there may be a bunch of people out there that I don't even know exist. Of the people I know, I would say Christy Sullivan is the closest in strict keto to us.
Okay, now I am looking at these delicious, delicious ice creams, and I am happen to be on, let's go to root beer float ice cream.
Okay.
Root beer float ice cream. Coconut milk, almond milk, heavy cream, avocado oil, xylitol, sea salt, vanilla extract, root beer extract, guar gum. Why guar gum? What is that doing for you?
Guar gum is an emulsifier. In ice cream, guar gum is the best emulsifier. I don't use eggs in any of my ice cream recipes. And so every once in a while, which is great for the people who can't have eggs, but that's not why I did it. That's just a bonus. And eggs are wonderful. Sometimes people are like, what's wrong with eggs? I'm like, absolutely nothing's wrong with eggs. Eggs are fantastic. In fact, eggs are like the perfect keto food. The reason I didn't use eggs was because I wanted everybody who'd never even been in the kitchen before to make keto ice cream that's better than the premium brands you buy in the store, regular ice cream. I wanted anybody of any skill level to be able to make keto ice cream that would make their friends and family gasp. That would be better than going to buy Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs. So what makes traditional ice cream trickier is eggs, because you have to cook them, you have to make a custard, and that can be tricky. It also takes a bunch of time to do it well, to do it properly. So I wanted to develop them without the eggs in so that the recipes were simpler, faster, easier, and more accessible to all the people, including those who've never cooked before keto.
Now,
normally, I forgot your original question. I've just remembered it. So normally,
I asked about why guar gum.
Eggs, the egg yolk is what emulsifies the mixture, because we don't have egg yolks in there. You need an emulsifier. And in this instance, in a cold application, guar gum is the best emulsifier. So that's what it's there for. It's not there to thicken. It's there to emulsify. Emulsify is holding wet water, or we'll say water, liquid and fat in a homogeneous suspension. That's what an emulsifier does. It hangs, it makes the water and the fat link up and not separate. So we have to have an emulsifier in there. In ice cream, guar gum is the best emulsifier.
Okay, now I'm going to say a dirty word in the keto community. There's something missing from your cookbook. It also happens to be missing from my cookbook. And macros. There are no macros for your recipe. Now, I have to tell you, in communities where you publish a recipe without macros, it is considered like the death sentence. Like, how dare you publish a recipe without telling us the macros? I know why I don't do it. You tell me why you don't do it.
So, except in our community, so in the Keto Evangelist kitchen, everybody knows why there's no macros, and they all get it, and nobody asks for it. So I no longer get beaten up by people who know me, or people who listen to our podcast, or people who read my blog. They or do my recipes or buy my cookbooks. They no longer beat me up because they understand why, and they're on board with why. So the reason that Brian and I made the decision to not publish macros is that they are completely inaccurate. We are not in the business of...
You know, I go through the macros that people publish, and they're wrong.
Yes. Brian and I are not in the business of giving people inaccurate data. We're in the business of helping people. Giving them inaccurate data is not helping them. So we don't do it. And we have, 2 years ago, 18 months ago, People used to yell at us all the time about the macro thing, but we're unrepentant because we want to help people. So how do I know that the macros that are provided by a third party are inaccurate? So I did a little experiment. I have a bunch of wonderful admins in my Facebook group, and I tasked one of them. I sent her a bunch of my recipes from one of my cookbooks. And I asked her if she would figure out the macros for each of the recipes. So she went to 8 different online calculators and she punched the recipes into all 8. She came up with 8 different sets of data. I punched the same recipes into the same 8 calculators and came up with another 8 different sets of data. So for the same 8 recipes, we ended up with 16 different sets of data. Hands up, who knows which set of data was correct?
The ones I did. The bottom line is every macro calculator, every nutrition calculator is different. And if you switch out to use a different brand, a different percent of fat, you pick, everything's different.
Right. So ingredients vary. If you don't use exactly the same ingredients I do, then your numbers are going to be different. If you sub anything out at all, the numbers are going to be different. The numbers are going to be off. They're going to be inaccurate. How much serving size? I have no way of knowing how much you're going to eat. Your serving size is what you eat. So I cannot, once I did this little experiment and I had these 16 sets of data, I'm like, okay, which one am I going to use? And then I realized that I had no way of knowing which one was the accurate one. And then again, on top of that, if you use a different brand, if you sub something because you don't have something, so you sub it for something else, if you leave an ingredient out altogether, if you don't eat the same serving size as me, all of these things are going to make, even if I manage to somehow magically pick the right set of data from those 16 tools that I used, you're still not going to end up with what you actually eat is not going to be reflected by the macro data that a third party provides you with. One, because the tools are all over the place and they're all different. And 2, because the chances of you using exactly the same ingredients as me is very small. And then eating the same amount of meat is very small. So I'll give you a good example, a very simple example. Bacon. Go to the fridge and get out a packet of bacon. I know you have bacon in your fridge. And open it and lay all the, we call them rashers in England, slices here. Lay out all the slices of bacon. You tell me that there's any one piece of bacon in there that is the same as the other. So when you're looking at the back of the packet of bacon and you're seeing that the macros there, you tell me which one of those slices of bacon matches that on the back. Well, you can't, because what's on the back is an average. And all you have to do is hold up 2 of those slices of bacon from the same packet, and you will see that there's no way you can know what the macros of that bacon are. And we're just talking about one ingredient. And then you cook the bacon. Now, I'm British, so I like floppy bacon. And Harlan's American, so maybe he likes crispy bacon. So hands up, who knows how much fat is rendered off for floppy bacon and how much fat is rendered off for crispy bacon? And who knows how much fat you're going to sop up when you eat your bacon, or are you going to drain it all off? You have absolutely no way of knowing. So we're talking about just one ingredient here, and already you can see that nobody really has any idea what the macros for even one piece of bacon is. Now multiply that by 7, 8, 10, 12 ingredients in a recipe, and you can see that it is completely impossible for anybody to give you accurate macro data. And we're all human. And I bet you that any bloggers that use more than one tool, if they put their recipes through multiple different tools, which one are they going to pick the data to put in their recipe? It's human nature. They're going to pick the one with the lowest carbs. Is that accurate? It may well be, but we don't know that. And so I hope you can understand now why me or Harlan giving you inaccurate macro data doesn't help you at all. The most accurate way is for you to find a calculator that you like and to punch in the exact ingredients you used in the exact amounts you used and divide it by the number of servings you got out of it. Your data still won't be accurate because of the inaccuracies of the tools. You may have picked a tool that's really, really accurate. You may not. You don't know that. I don't know that. Nobody knows that. But you will have the most accurate data you can get by punching in exactly what you used, exactly what ingredients, exactly the amount, and exactly how much you ate. Everything else is going to be inaccurate. And if it's inaccurate, I'm not interested in providing that information to you because I want you to be successful. I hope that all made sense. I got a bit ranty because I'm quite passionate about this.
Well, that's fine. We're passionate too. Now, aside from ice cream, you've written about soup, you've written crock-pot recipes, you've written a book for holiday recipes, and you also have something called Kick-Ass Keto. Can you tell us about that?
So the other book is 101 Keto Beverages, and I'll come back to that in a minute.
That's right.
Because there was a very good reason why I wrote that. But Kick-Ass Keto is a 28-day quick start guide to keto. So it's your one-stop shop. And it's not a billion pages. It's written in very, very simple language because keto is incredibly confusing when you start out. So Brian Williamson, who is my podcast co-host, and Rekha J, who typically designs my cookbook covers, Rekha and Brian wrote the theory and the science. And then I did all the recipes. There's also meal plans and shopping lists and all the things. So this is really a 28-day. Read the front of the book. There's not a lot, but there is all of the critical information you need to know. And then the back half of the book is two 28-day meal plans. So you just read the front and then you just use the shopping list, use the meal plans, make the meals as they're done. So this was our attempt to make keto easy, understandable, fast, simple meals. I was super hardcore about the meals in a Kickstarter because to get people going, of course, they want to get in ketosis as quickly as possible. And they don't want to have to buy a ton of weird ingredients and do, keto baking and try and figure that out. This was also intended so that people who had no experience in the kitchen could get started right away, eat delicious food, and wonder why they didn't go keto sooner. And then 101 beverages. I have a theory that beverages is what derails a lot of people. Because I think a lot of us, we don't think about drinks being food. And so we'll have all our plates of food will be on point, but then we'll just, we'll go to Starbucks and have a latte, not realizing what that's doing. Or so I think beverages for a lot of people are their downfall. And for me, I know that I don't like drinking plain water, which is the best thing. And so I was forever looking for ways to make water delicious. So that's where, that's why I felt that the beverage book was really, really, really important, because I think people are inadvertently derailing themselves because they don't think about beverages as food, which they actually are.
What is your most popular book?
Oh, probably the holiday book. At the moment, it's the ice cream book. The ice cream book has been outselling all the other books by probably 10 times for the last several months, partly because it's ice cream season and partly because the more people that buy it and make ice creams and are just like, oh my goodness, now I can do keto. If I can have this ice cream, now I can do it. I've had a load of mail from people saying, okay, my husband finally got on board because I made him some of your ice cream. So now he's going to try it because he doesn't think it tastes nasty anymore. And so right now it's the ice cream book, but I think overall the biggest seller is the holiday book. And I think one of the reasons for that is that it has a variety of things in it. So it has appetizers, it has entrees, it has sides, it has desserts, it has beverages, it has a section at the back for turkey leftovers. So it has a range of all the things. Did I say breakfast? No, it actually has some breakfasts in there as well. So I think one of the reasons why the holiday cookbook is so popular is because it has a little bit of everything. But also, I think people find the holidays one of the most difficult times. So having a book that just like gives them the holiday menu on a plate so they could just have one book and cook everything out of it and have a completely keto holiday with food that their friends and family don't even know are keto. I think that is key for a lot of people. Feeding people at the holidays is difficult, but it's also a brilliant opportunity to prove to friends and family that eating keto can be even more delicious than the food that they're currently eating. So the holiday cookbook has been a great keto converter.
I have to tell you that I have my eye on Caffeination Station for tomorrow.
It's a favorite. People love Caffeination Station. In fact, I think there's 5 different coffee ice creams in the keto ice cream scoop. They're all completely different. One of my favorites is the ballistic ice cream, which it has a coffee ice cream base, but it has all the things in it that you'd have in your bulletproof coffee. So it has MCT oil, it has all the things. So it's like your BPC, but then I added macadamia nuts that had been dipped in chocolate fudge. And so it's chocolate dipped macadamias in BPC, frozen BPC essentially. So that's
how many people here could get into the idea that you could have your bulletproof ice cream for breakfast with Carrie's recipe?
There's a lot of people in the kitchen group who are there's a lot of people making keto ice cream in our group, obviously because I'm there, and a lot of people eat keto ice cream for breakfast now.
Now I have to tell you, in one of it was following Dave Asprey's recipe for his bulletproof ice cream. Wasn't particularly good. I don't know if you ever tried it, but
I haven't. I honestly have never tried anybody else's ice cream because that's where I came from. So I knew I was an expert at ice cream before I went keto. So I never felt the need to go search anywhere else to figure it out. I just figured it out myself, and then I just kept making up recipes because it is my favorite thing to do, is to create new, awesome, exciting, weird keto ice cream flavors. But I can tell just by looking at a recipe that's someone else's recipe whether it's actually going to work or not.
So I see that you use some liqueurs like Kahlua or whatever. Do those have sugar in them?
You know, Kahlua is one of the odd ones in the book. There's not a lot of alcohol in it, but there is a little bit in some. I spent a lot of my life, and some of my admins spent a lot of their lives trying to find the answer to that question and failed. Even contacting the makers of Kahlua, we could not get an answer. The amount of Kahlua in there per serving is very small. So, that was one of the things that was kind of like close to the line for me. So I don't recommend that you eat a lot. Well, you can't. My ice creams are incredibly satiating. Most people find that once they've had one scoop, that's all they need. They don't, they're fully satiated. So these ice creams are not meant to be eaten in, huge amounts at one time. I mean, you can if you want to. Dr. Ken Berry, I think most of you have probably heard of him. Dr. Ken and his wife Nisha came and stayed at my house because he was speaking at Keto Fest in New London, Connecticut a few weeks back. And we had a little ice cream tasting party. And I made them 5 different flavors of ice cream, and they ate a scoop of each. And we had a fabulous time, and nobody put on any weight, and it was just awesome.
So let me ask you a question. I've looked at your cookbooks, and compared to the price of other cookbooks, they are fabulously inexpensive. What's that all about?
So I'm self-published. They are available on Amazon in a hard copy, glossy covered, full color pictures. They're also available in digital, also full color, exactly the same thing, but digital. As you know, Harlan, Amazon set the prices for books. So the Amazon hard copies are significantly more expensive. And because I self-publish, I can't produce a whole bunch of books. They're print on demand. So when you push the button on Amazon, the order goes to the printer, they print your book and ship it to you, which is just a much more expensive model than if I had a publisher who was printing out thousands and thousands of them. And that's why I made the digital PDFs available to people who either preferred digital or didn't have the budget for Amazon's pricing, which I totally understand. So there's 2 price points and 2 formats. And I hope that, they will work. Either one will work for people. I sell if anyone's interested, I sell almost exactly the same amounts of physical versus digital. So half of my audience choose digital and the other half wants physical books still.
So I have to tell you, folks, that I put up a page, completelyketo.com/Carrie. You can see it right there. You can see it right there in the comments. And we have all of our cookbooks there. If you go to that page, you see, of course, the ice cream scoop, the keto ice cream scoop, the keto soup bowl, the keto crock pot, keto for the holidays, 101 keto beverages, and kick-ass keto. And I can tell you that, as you can see, I've got the ice cream cookbook. It's phenomenal.
Oh, that one on the front. That one on the front is the ballistic that I was telling you about with the chocolate fudge dipped macadamias in bulletproof coffee, essentially bulletproof coffee.
Tomorrow you are mine. Okay, so are the macadamias roasted? I haven't found the recipe yet.
They're not.
Oh, good, because I have raw macadamias. Mm-hmm. Folks, head on over to completelyketo.com/Carrie. Pick up a cookbook. You will be delighted. Is it an immediate download for them?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And also, I'm Harlan and Kim kindly added me to the group. So if you have ice cream questions, or actually for any of my recipes, if you have questions, please just tag me in the group so that I can come and help or come and answer any questions. Because I want you to be successful. I want you to be successful at keto, and thus I want you to be successful with cooking. So if I can help, please tag me. I won't see it if you don't tag me.
Okay. Well, Carrie is now in all of our groups, and you can join us. Carrie, thanks so much. Over the next couple of days, this is going to get thousands and thousands and thousands of views. Folks, how many people learned something new about cooking keto tonight? I did. And if you did, let us know in your comments. I mean, the business about the learning about the macros, the learning about the different ingredients, the learning about the different types of sweeteners that we use. You got an incredible learning experience here tonight. Go over this video to unpack it, but this was really amazing. Carrie,
to be clear, this isn't about selling cookbooks. This is about you becoming a rock star in the kitchen. That's why I do what I do. A cookbook is just a vehicle for me to get you a bunch of recipes into your hands that you can be successful with. So my goal in life is to help you be a fabulous cook and to be eating food on keto that is far more delicious than anything you had prior.
And feel free to check out Carrie at Keto Evangelist Kitchen and say hi from us there.
Or carriebrown.com will also work.
carriebrown.com. And our moderator Fred says garlic ice cream is what he needs. Fred is one of our mods and he loves garlic, so he said he's waiting for garlic ice cream. We have a comment.
Fred, you need to ping me a direct message on Facebook, and I'll add it to my list.
Okay, Frank, there you go. And we have a message here that says, I love your story. It's a true inspiration.
Thank you.
All right. Carrie, thanks so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Have a great evening. Also, Carrie helps run KetoCon. Is that correct? The
Yes.
KetoCon conference? So I bet if you go to KetoCon, you'll meet her there.
Yes, you will.
And maybe there'll be some ice cream to sample. You never know.
Well, it's in Austin in June, so everybody wants ice cream, but I don't know. And I live in Connecticut, and I always drive to KetoCon. So I'm seeing if the logistics
it melts along the way.
I'm seeing if the logistics can work, but if it's not ice cream, there'll be something else yummy.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Good
you.
night.